Well, hello everyone and welcome to 𝗖𝐋𝐈𖖖 channel. My name is Mo, and in this video I want to touch on the topic of stock lending through Wealthsimple. This is an option that for investors through Wealthsimple could lend some of their available ETFs or stocks to others, and by doing so indirectly get some interest income. Now, for me, even if I toggle on this feature in the Wealthsimple app, it really never came to use until recently. In fact, around mid-December of last year, less than a month ago, I noticed that some of my shares of 𝗋𝐻𝐈𝐿 were lent out to other investors through the feature of Wealthsimple. And as a result of that, I started receiving and collecting some indirect interest income. Even though I have not actually fully received my first payout, I wanted to make this video and showcase to you how it works, what are some of the risks that you need to be aware of, and more details around stock lending, at least through Wealthsimple app. And lastly, of course, I will provide an update into our portfolio that my wife and I have built. We have over $500,000 invested. We're going to showcase to you where things are at and what are our key holdings in our portfolio. Let's get into it. As you can see here from the screen, on December 15th, I received this email confirming that, I have my first set of shares lent out through Wealthsimple, and I would receive my first payment on January 15th, which is about 10 days away from today. Stock lending is what is called, according to Wealthsimple, their fully paid securities program. It's a way to earn passive income on fully paid for stocks in your self-directed TFSA or non-registered portfolio. Now, for us, even though both for my wife and I, we have considerable number of shares of 𝗋𝐻𝐈𝐿 in our portfolio, including our TFSA and non-registered, so far only me, I've had some of my shares lent out, and it's only in my non-registered account. I haven't had anything lent out on my TFSA, nor on any of the accounts of my wife so far. The way that it works, Wealthsimple loans out the stocks or ETFs to other institutions, and any earnings on those loan of the security are then split between us, like investors, and Wealthsimple. And now, next question that folks may be asking, why do investors actually borrow stocks? There's, this article says in the email, lots of reasons. Some are really basic and some are a bit more complex. And here's a quick rundown of that. The first thing is that to use them as collateral. In many cases, firms, financial institutions must pledge securities to banks to qualify for business or secure loans. And if not owned, they can borrow them. So that's one way, through borrowing these kind of shares, they build that collateral needed for them. The other thing is to cover deficits or failed deliveries. Firms can also be required to hold a certain number of securities to meet their obligations. Third reason specified here is to short the stock. If an investor thinks the value of a particular stock will go down, they can borrow it, sell it, then buy it back at what they hope will be lower price, pocketing the difference. That could be another reason why the stock lending could be applicable there. And the other two reasons are to facilitate tight two-way pricing on stocks and ETFs, which talks about when market makers provide their own buy and sell orders to keep prices close, meaning they might have to borrow that stock to complete the order. And lastly, to exert influence. Firms may borrow shares in order to participate in corporate actions like voting rights with the goal of influencing management decisions. It may not be as applicable to ETFs, but mostly to stocks. When you are lending out your shares, you're actually giving away as well those voting rights associated with them. What are some of the downsides? What are the risks? For the most part, stock lending is low risk for you. In an unlikely event that the borrower or Wealthsimple become insolvent, though, your loan securities are backed up by cash to at least 100% of their value. So I think that talks about very low risk associated with them. But there are a few other things for you to note. And first one being the forfeiture of shareholders' voting right, as I touched on earlier on any stocks you lend. If this is something that's important to you, then you might want to reconsider whether you want to lend out your shares. For our case, as I talked about, we are lending out shares of 𝗋𝐻𝐈𝐿, which is an ETF consisting of over 9,000 stocks. There's really no voting rights associated with our ETFs, so it won't really matter whatsoever for us. A common question that many investors may ask is that if you lend your stocks or ETFs, are you still going to own them? And the answer is absolutely. You still own your stocks, and they're still subject to any market fluctuations. You can also sell your shares at any time, even if they are on loan. How much can you make, and how are those earnings calculated? It really depends on how in demand security is. and it would actually fluctuate, and that would also impact the rate of return that you're going to get. And keep in mind, even if you might have a lot of shares of a company, these number of shares that are being lent can change drastically over time. You know, they might be go on loan, they might be returned, go on loan, come back. And I'm going to show you in a moment, you do see that how it's actually fluctuating quite a bit. But Wealthsimple has provided an example here. So let's say you own 300 shares of the company 𝐁𝐘𝐖, and it is trading at $40. That gives you a notional value of $12,000, 300 times 40. If lending returns are 8%, let's say that is what it is, you're going to get half of that, right? You're going to receive 4% of it, and the rest, the other split would go towards Wealthsimple. Since there's no fee to lend your stocks, depending on that, assuming that you were lenting it out for a whole year, that results in an extra $480 in income. Now, there's so much fluctuations in terms of the number of shares being lent out and the ups and downs. That's something you have to keep in mind. In our case, we have a lot of shares of 𝐋𝐈𝐖. Between my wife and I, we have over 18,000 shares of it. So if those shares were all being lent out, that would really result in some juicy, nice, extra interest income for us. But in reality, as I'm going to show you momentarily, not all of them are lent out. We started actually off, but very small number. I think the first time that our shares were lent out, it was only 191 shares that were lent out. And over time, it went up, went down. I think at one point went up over even 1,200 shares. But right now, again, many of those shares are returned back to us. All right, as you can see, I'm now on my Wealthsimple app. This is my own personal Wealthsimple app. I'm gonna click over to between these arrows. That's where it takes me to some of the features of Wealthsimple. If I scroll down, you see there's a section called automations. If you click onto it, you see the different features that allows you automation, such as dividend reinvestment and whatnot. But there's one of them called stock lending. It's that last option here on my app. If I click onto it, you do see that I have activated it both for my non-registered account and TFSA. So if I click on TFSA just for a second, you see that I have not had any earnings paid out to me. And currently there's nothing actually lent out in terms of my shares in TFSA. However, if I go back and click onto my non-registered account, click on view details, you do see that so far I have not been paid out any amount. However, I do have currently 270 shares of my 𝐋𝐈𝐖 lent out. This number changes all the time. I will show you in a moment. And this shows that it was last updated as of yesterday at 1 p.m. If I click into view all, and if I then click into view all lending activities, you do see that how it changes. I'm going to go back to the bottom of this page, scroll all the way down. You see how this fluctuated over time. Initially, back on December of 14, I had 190 shares of 𝐋𝐈𝐖 lent out. Then almost the next day, 112 of them were returned back. So they were no longer lent out. As a result, I'm now getting interest on a smaller number of shares. Then December 18, 100 more 15 shares extra were lent out. That's good. Any positive number of shares that are lent out is in my case is positive because I'm not really doing anything with these shares. So the more that those are lent out, that means possibly there's more interest income for me. Then December 19, 278 shares. December 20th, 2 shares. Then on December 21st, 336 shares were returned back to me. Then the next day, 406 shares were given out as a loan. December 26, 1 share was returned back. December 27, 388 were returned back to me. On December 28th, I got 2 more shares lent out. December 29, 257 more shares lent out. Then January 2nd, 95 shares were returned back to me. January 3rd, 340 shares were lent out. January 4th, 640 shares were lent out. And then on January 5th, 1,028 shares were returned back to me. That results in a net amount of shares currently on loan of 270 shares. If I go back, you see currently it says next payday is January 15th. So far, I've had 0 earnings in terms of amount paid out to me. But if I click on that sign to see the details, here's what I was interested and pleasantly surprised to see. It has an estimated amount of earnings from December, which is like roughly that 17 days that I had my stocks on loan, and the payday for which being January 15th. The estimated amount, I'm not sure it's going to be exact this amount. We'll see. I'll keep you posted. But the estimated amount is $9.67. To me, that was decent. That was a nice return. Definitely not. We're not talking about only cents. It's almost $10. Let's see if actually pans out to be the case. But it was a pleasant surprise for me to see that, yeah, you know what? I'm not really doing anything particular. Those shares are sitting there for us, earning our dividend income and growth and all of that. But on the side, there's an option by lending out. I might possibly get an extra $10 during that month. And so far in January, based on the 5th day, the first 5 days in the month, it seems like an estimated earnings has been almost $4. Not too bad, knowing that only for a few days we've had it in the months. Let me know what your thoughts are. I was quite surprised based on these amounts. I will definitely post on Blossom the actual number of amounts that I've earned. If you are not yet on Blossom and would like to follow my post and know exactly our trades as they happen, I encourage you to check it out. It's a fantastic community of investors here in Canada and US coming together, asking questions, sharing their insights when it comes to investing in the stock market, as well as sharing their portfolio with others. Plus, you can see their returns as well as their trades as they happen real time. So if I hover over to trades for any members, in this case, I'm showing you my profile, you do see their trades as they occur, at what prices they bought what shares, and it's really a wonderful community. I do encourage you to check it out. If you haven't done so yet, please use my referral link. It really means a lot to me. It's available in the description of the video, and I would really appreciate that. Lastly, I wanted to share with you the portfolio that my wife and I have, mainly consisting of invest passively through ETFs, low-cost index funds that are broad market. We have shares of 𝗋𝐻𝐈𝐿, which is close to 92% of our entire portfolio. Then we have some shares of VTI and VT. We are holding all of these VT and VTI, which are in US dollars, in our RSP accounts. VTI accounts for about 4.8% of our portfolio, and VT accounts for 3.6%. You do see how they have returned so far. Our entire portfolio size, as you notice here on the screen, is currently close to $564,000. The expected dividend income from our portfolio in a year is shown here as well, $11,663. Most recently, we did receive, my wife and I, our shares, the dividend income from our shares of 𝗋𝐻𝐈𝐿. We received close to $3,600 in dividend income, which was all reinvested back to the same shares of 𝗋𝐻𝐈𝐿, giving us approximately 132 additional shares of 𝗋𝐻𝐈𝐿, which is quite nice, using the power of compounding to grow our portfolio and let it compound faster and faster. Our portfolio currently has an overall average management expense ratio of 0.19%. And you do see the breakdown for these different holdings that we have here. Let me know your thoughts about this video. Have you already considered, having some of your stocks or ETFs lent out through Wealthsimple's stock lending feature? Do you have any experience with that? I would love to hear from you and know what are your thoughts after having watched this video. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this video until the end. I hope you found it beneficial and you gained something of value from it. If you did, I would really appreciate if you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Here on Momentum Finance, we post weekly videos about investing better, investing in stock market through stocks or passively through ETFs. We also talk about ways to reach financial independence. Thank you, and I hope to see you all next time.